It started with a bark. One single bark that echoed across my backyard like a gunshot through silence. Max, my old Labrador, slipped through the back gate and was chasing a squirrel, and within 5 minutes I had a formal citation taped to my front door from the HOA, the beginning of a nightmare I never saw coming. The notice said I was in violation of leash policy Rule 14 subsection B, even though Max never left our property, and that was just the start. The next week I received another citation for allowing Max to urinate on communal grass, which wasn't even true. Then came the threat of fines. Then court. Then removal. Max was family, my only real company after my wife passed, and he never hurt a soul. The HOA president, Karen, a woman whose entire identity seemed to revolve around control, held the leash law over me like a sword, she said. Max needed to be leashed at all times, even in my own fenced yard, or I'd be fined daily and possibly reported to animal control. I tried reasoning, pleading, even brought video evidence of Max inside my property, but it didn't matter. Karen smiled that smug, power-hungry smile and said, rules. It wasn't about the dog, it was about dominance, and I knew then this was war. The day I got the final warning, a friend from the neighborhood whispered to me that Karen was pushing a motion to ban dogs from the entire block under nuisance grounds. I couldn't believe it. I wasn't the only one suffering. I discovered a single mother down the street had to rehome her German Shepherd because of citations. Kids were crying, elders were giving up walking their pets, it was spreading, and that's when I decided no more. I started documenting everything. Logs printed every notice, every ridiculous charge. I even wore a body cam when I walked in my own yard waiting for them to pounce, and they did a week later too. OA board members showed up trying to take Max, claiming he was a safety risk. That was their mistake because I had the footage, the threats, and the false statements all on record, and I took it straight to the county commissioner. Not only did the HOA have no legal right to enforce leash laws on private property, but Karen had been overstepping her authority for years, and now it was on file. The board tried to silence me, but I filed a community petition, and with over 70% of the neighborhood on my side, we called for a full vote to remove the entire board. Karen screamed, cursed, even threatened to sue me. I didn't flinch. The vote passed. In under 2 weeks she was outgone, and so were her rules. And as for Max, well, he ran free in the newly designated dog-friendly park we built right on the land Karen once tried to fence off from public use. Every evening kids laugh, dogs play, and I sit on that same bench with Max by my side watching freedom win. And if you ever think one person can't fight the system, remember Max and me, because sometimes standing your ground doesn't just save your dog, it saves an entire neighborhood, and you won't believe what happened when Karen tried to take me to court afterward. The judge laughed in her face and asked if she even read the bylaws, because everything she enforced was either expired or unauthorized. But here's the kicker: she had been pocketing HOA fees through a shell contractor to maintain our park, which hadn't been cleaned in 2 years. It's the same park we rebuilt together as neighbors. After her fall from grace, Karen moved out of town quietly. No goodbye, no apology, just gone. And Max, well, he became something of a neighborhood mascot. People would wave when we passed. Kids would run up just to pet him. The man who once faced eviction now got thank you cards on his porch, and that little citation about a barking dog turned into a symbol of resistance against petty power. And sometimes when I walk alone, I wonder how many other Karens are out there using rules to control silence and punish, but I don't fear them anymore. I learned that one voice, one camera, one loyal dog can unravel years of fear, and I hope someone else hears this and realizes they don't have to bow to intimidation either, because the leash may be theirs, but the ground is still ours. Where we stand matters, and when we stand together, no Karen can ever take that away. And as more time passed, I found myself needing fewer words to explain the journey, fewer memories that carried pain, and more that brought quiet smiles. I watched as teenagers who once feared Karen's clipboard grew into adults hosting community events at the park. The HOA board had changed entirely now, made up of neighbors who genuinely listened and worked together instead of ruling from behind closed doors. The fear was gone, replaced by something rare in HOA communities: trust. And it all started with one moment. One choice to say no more, to stand up not just for a dog, but for the principle that no one gets to strip away peace under the mask of authority, and that truth rippled further than I ever imagined. Sometimes change doesn't come in protests or headlines. Sometimes it comes when a man chooses to fight for a small yard and a dog. Who loved it? That fight lit a flame that warmed a whole community, and long after I'm gone, I hope that flame still burns in every person who chooses courage over silence, because that's how you break cycles. That's how you make sure no one Karen ever rules unchecked again, and that's how a single leash turned into a legacy, and that's where the story truly ends. Not with a fight, not with revenge, but with a neighborhood forever changed by the quiet bravery of one man and his dog. What began as a battle over a leash turned into a movement of unity, compassion, and resistance against senseless control. Now, every time someone new moves into the neighborhood and asks about the park, they're told it was built in honor of a dog named Max who stood for freedom, and a neighbor who refused to let fear win. And maybe, just maybe, they carry that lesson with them too, because the best victories don't always come with applause. Sometimes they come in wagging tails, open gates, and the laughter of children running through fields, their joy untouched, unregulated, and completely free, just like Max would have wanted. And with that, the story of Max in the neighborhood found its forever place, not just in memory, but in the everyday life of a community that had finally learned what it meant to live. Without fear, people stopped whispering behind closed doors. They started standing up for one another, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. And though no one talks about Karen anymore, her name, forgotten, her rules, erased, the legacy of what she tried to suppress, still lives on, stronger than ever, in every corner of that park. Freedom, laughter, kindness, it all grew from one simple moment of courage. So if you ever find yourself backed into a corner by someone drunk on power, remember this story, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is protect what you love, even when the world tells you not to. And sometimes all it takes to change everything is the love between one man and his dog.